The problem that people have been ignoring. That people just accept certain gaps in the process, either connections or pieces that are missing. And the idea here is to go and fill the gaps that haven't been addressed before, and take all the existing technology out there and make it work better together. Well, in construction, some of the main elements are upfront architectural software. The most common one's Autodesk Revit. And Revit's great at creating construction documents, CDs. Right? But when it comes to manufacturing, it's square one for the manufacturer. And they accept just starting over again in their own software that they need to use for manufacturing. And that's one of the first things we want to change, is we want that work that's done up front in a program like Autodesk Revit to flow seamlessly all the way through to fabrication and back to site for construction. So that the BIM model up in Revit is truly what gets built, rather than being invented throughout the current processes today of sort of siloed software. One of the ideas we have behind Echo is we don't want to reinvent any wheel. So we could have gone and built great design software that links to great engineering software and have even an amazing experience, but then we've got to convince people to switch softwares. Not to mention, it's a well-served market. There's lots of great architectural softwares, lots of great 3D modeling softwares. And so we want to just stand on the shoulders of giants and use those as interfaces people are familiar with. So the other big advantage is not only having to reinvent that wheel and ultimately make a competitor like Autodesk, which doesn't make any sense. We're letting people that already have those softwares, that already know how to use them, integrate with Echo technology. So people can get the benefits of this end-to-end seamless single source of truth and not have to either throw their technology out or relearn new technology. Because we've taken things like Autodesk Revit, and through our Echo Cloud technology, Echo Cloud runs parallel in the cloud while they're seamlessly, they don't even see it while they're using Revit. And that's the key to how we make this whole thing work, is it's the same experience for the architects and designers, but in that cloud, we're upscaling that low resolution data that's in Revit, which is what you need for construction documents, but not good enough for manufacturing. Echo's creating the high resolution data in the cloud, not burdening the user's current desktop or changing their work experience. Yet once we have the high resolution data in the cloud, we can use the cloud to feed it into programs like Autodesk Inventor or even their competitors to create great 3D models that can then be further customized. And then when it's done in whatever 3D modeling program it's in at that point, we bring the data back into Echo and then produce the information necessary for fabrication. So all the work orders, all the programming for any of the computer-controlled machines, the tracking of everything in the factory, through to shipping out to the right back to site. So we sort of go in and out of these different softwares back into our cloud. And that's why we call the Echo Cloud the single source of truth, because it was the one talking to Revit in the background, and then talking to Inventor in the background, and other softwares that we were able to find in the industry that were already great softwares, work with those ones as well. Well, I guess it's sort of, the financials, like any other component a business may already have on their business software. Our vision is that they keep everything they have, right? Like I said at the beginning, we're going to bridge the things and provide the things they never thought they needed, but they would be great for them. So yeah, of course, financial software, whether it's tracking forecasts of the orders or the order entry for contractual elements or through to shipping, Echo's tracking all that through and can seamlessly interact with any financial software. So that's been working very good. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, but we want to raise expectations of what people think is possible. It's funny, people just expect to start over again after construction documents. And they take it for granted, because if someone spec'd an elevator or a curtain wall, when you actually go to build those components, there's way more detail that you need, right? And not only that, it has to be specific to how that person is going to manufacture. So they don't accept starting over again, right? And that's what we change. And we can actually take that intelligence of the manufacturer, put it in our AI software in the cloud, and then it runs in parallel up front through a familiar design tool like Revit. So when they're done doing that work and someone's invested in Echo technology, they can save hundreds and hundreds of hours and errors and streamlining their fulfillment of that construction product. Yeah, basically that's my sort of, I think if the low res is this, you've got a design intent or a schematic with typical construction documents, right? But then what people might call shop drawings or other drawings that the manufacturer has to then go and produce with way more detail, right? Because the human has that knowledge to create it. That's what Echo does. Echo takes that into the cloud and does that extrapolation. And then delivers it back to the manufacturer in their 3D software that they already use. right? So the work that they've done in 3D software, building those models, we use that. And by giving it back to them in the software they already use, they can validate it, or even go and do what I call unpredictable customization, right? Things you just couldn't predict. If you can't predict it, you can't automate it. But we can drop that back in the 3D software they know how to use. They can further customize it, make it whatever thing they want. And then it still comes back into Echo straight out to the factories. The great part about having all the information at an engineering level in Echo in a seamless cloud is that whether you send it the work to these two machines in one building or two different machines halfway around the world, right? Once we get that link between the high resolution in engineering model and we feed that straight to the factory forms, it doesn't matter where the factory is, doesn't matter what the machine is, whether it's owned by the manufacturer, parent company, or outsourced, it treats it as one giant factory, right? And you can be confident that when it all comes together, it's going to work because it all came from that seamless 3D model in the first place. So machine learning has different components of it. The one I'm particularly excited about is up in the upfront design phase. There's a lot of companies, including Autodesk and even some of the large architectural firms, have invested in AI for design. I think they're doing great progress. My words for what they're creating is what I call iterative design. They can teach the computer whether it's office layouts or parking layouts, and the computer can go through and create hundreds of thousands of possibilities and evaluate through criteria which is better. And they can do a great job of optimizing those designs or doing those sorts of things. That's a well-served area. An area that's not been served at all, in my opinion, is helping the designer. So our AI that's running in parallel with Revit is learning, it's been learning for just over a year now, about what I call normal situational, trying to find the right words, but when you look at, when it recognizes the models and what sort of relation sort of normal about it, it can then tell you things that aren't in that area, interactively. I'm kind of maybe Siri tries to help you sometimes. It's trying to, and it'll come back with maybe some bad suggestions, and you'll tell it it's bad suggestion, and it'll learn from that. It might come back and actually catch something that's potentially an error. Oh, you're right, that never should be like that. Thanks for helping me, I'll fix it. Or it could be coming back and saying, what if you did it this way? And you'd be like, that's a great idea, right? And that's the AI we're creating. The way I would sort of describe it is like a very experienced senior designer, been doing any application for years, right? And then a newer designer comes in, doesn't know what the application is, and they start to work on it. You can imagine that senior person in just a few minutes can look over the shoulder and spot a better way or something that might not be right, or give them some feedback. And that's what we're trying to create, something that assists the designer, just keeps getting better and better. More like driver assist than, take your hands off the wheel completely. Not this thing, because I want to help designers. I don't think, I'm on the goal of replacing designers. That's not what I want to do. I think the best opportunity for Echo is somewhere in the building construction. I think that's where it's going to excel, because it ties together an industry that's very archaic, that's trying to evolve, trying to embrace technology, but hasn't really connected, architects and designers with manufacturing, for example. And I think that's when you get the most value. If you can benefit from upfront great visualizations that Echo can do, social 3D experiences, really enhancing the presentations of programs like Revit, which can certainly help in things like no more red lines, getting easier decisions from decision makers if they can go into a 3D experience to understand what it is. We have a great VR experience and interactive experience with social experiences, like multiple people from anywhere in the world can come in and look at that. That's very valuable. Knowing that what you've signed off on for that is that's going to get sent to the factory, helping the manufacturer eliminate hundreds of hours of manual engineering and manual bills and materials, and then continuing that information all the way back to an installation site is where you're going to get all the value. I think what's really hard in the construction industry, it's probably one of the oldest industries, building the pyramids or whatever, and there's just so many different players, and you go from, architects to, owner reps, and then when you go to the manufacturing, you're not going to one manufacturer, you're going to lots of different manufacturers, and so there's really not one ecosystem to make that work. So I think that, many people have tried and honestly failed to, to put the whole thing together. One way to try to do it is, I'm going to be everybody. I'm going to be the designer, architectural firm, I'm going to be the general contractor, I'm going to be the manufacturer, I'm going to be the on-the-site trades. Well, then now you compete with the whole world. That's difficult. And so our approach is to sort of keep the independent businesses that are there, keep the software that's there, but still get that dream that everyone's been chasing, which is in the construction industry, truly start to tie it from concept through to delivery on site. Like I said earlier, we're trying to reinvent the wheel. So we try to use existing software where it makes sense, right? Because we're trying to fill the parts that haven't been filled, where there's no competition. And so early on when we're building our social experience, which is a great, super impressive, we call it Echo Dome, where you get dozens and dozens of people socially, interacting in a 3D environment wherever they are in the world, all connected to the Echo model, and in this case, Revit. When people are moving around and all that discussion's happening with, audio and technical term, but there's a lot of different messages that have to be sent, where people are looking, what they're pointing, what they're saying, and we licensed some technology that ultimately started to fail us, and that became a challenging for us. So we actually built our own, and it's called a high frequency messaging service. But just basically to have hundreds of messages go to hundreds of people super fast. And that's how we're going to create a very seamless, enjoyable social experience within our 3D world. When you go to the cloud and you build proper applications ground up from the cloud, it's what I call horizontal scaling, not just me, but others, horizontal scaling. And it's effectively infinite. We can work in the Amazon cloud or whatever, Azure cloud. And if we need more horsepower, we can just go put it across 10 servers, 10,000 servers, 100,000 servers. It's virtually unlimited. Right, and that's the idea that we have, and so we really have unlimited scaling. So I think about, how many, can we have in the high frequency messaging server? Well, it's how many do you need? That's the only question. Well, it's gonna be hard to sell something to people that didn't know they needed it, but I mean, it's a game changer in a powerful way, and we're fortunate enough that Falkbuilt is the first company using the technology we built with Echo. And it is amazing how competitive and how much advantage Falkbuilt has in the marketplace. I think they'll be one of their biggest marketing elements for Echoes, because it isn't just a great idea that hopefully someone's going to use. We've built this, and it's being used by a manufacturer today in all those areas. So we're very confident, as people understand the benefit, they just can't resist it. Honestly, if two companies, one person takes it, one person doesn't, someone's in trouble. It changes what's possible. It's just super exciting. It says I built several softwares. This is just great to start over again and hit a whole new level, and embrace the very latest technology. Like everyone's phone can hit a QR code now, right? Just bringing all that in and delivering it back. We're very excited about it. And just the other thing, I guess, is just to not be limited by current perception of limits. Like people just think, oh, you can't do that, or that's the way it always is, or that's what you should do. And I've always thought about, what if it could just be like anything? What would it be? And that's really what we've built. This whole idea from end to end. I'm thinking of the absolute best scenario without compromising anything, yet using all the technology wherever possible in that ecosystem. It's just connecting the dots and making it go faster.